Welcome to Beyond the Racing Line, the Formula One podcast by fans, for fans. Canada was where the Formula One world was at over the weekend, and we love being in Canada. What a place it is. It's full of atmosphere. It's a track that just has a huge amount of nostalgia for so many people. And it was a race that was it was an interesting race. It probably wasn't the absolute cracker that maybe we had hoped for, but it was an interesting race. Tristan, what do you think?
Hello, mate. Hello, listeners. What did I think? I was left a little bit disappointed this weekend, to be quite honest. It's absolute gut feeling. It's one
that we look forward to, isn't it?
It is one. It is one that we look forward to, and we've been absolutely treated to some of the most amazing and memorable spectacles at Canada year on year. Like so many examples. Like think of Jensen's win, overtaking Seb in that last lap, dropping it, longest race ever.
Yep.
You know, I just Lewis's first win, Ricciardo's first win. That year when Kimi went right up Lewis in the pit lane, Kubica's crash.
Even Seb cutting the corner and then having to take it off, moving the thing.
You've got the BMW Sauber 1-2 the following year. There's so many incredible moments in Canada, but I felt this year that while it was a pretty decent race, I was left wanting a little bit more, and we didn't have that. It's not one that you'll tell the grandkids about, is it?
I do tend to agree. I tend to agree. But it was one of those ones where you just sort of, you got through, you hoped for more, but wasn't quite there.
And it was just nice to have racing back.
It was.
That was probably the thing.
Give me a ranking then. It sounds like you're telling me all about a 6 or a 7.
Look, to be quite honest, it's just a middle of the road. It's just a nice 5.
A 5?
Just a nice 5. We had the week off. We come back racing. We got to watch some racing. That's about it.
I enjoyed it. Even though not a lot happened, I did enjoy... Well, there was plenty that happened. Not a lot happened at the front of the field, but hey, that's generally... I think it was a 2023 7. It certainly wasn't a 2021 7. It was a 2023 7. For our season this year, it was a 7.
Jeez, I haven't thought that hard on the podcast for a very long time.
Yeah, well, there you go. It was one of those ones. All the usual goodies tonight.
Yep, all the usual goodies.
Looking forward to hearing about where F1.5 is at the moment.
Absolutely, we'll get cracking on that very shortly.
I imagine Ocon and Albon have sort of shot ahead.
Yes.
Or shot up the tallies anyway.
Well, I mean, like, if you're an avid follower of F1.5, you can sort of start to...
paint some pictures.
You can start to predict what the weekend's going to look like, can't you? Anyway, so...
It certainly tells a tale. And then, all the other bits and pieces which we always come to love as part of the Formula One podcast. But we always start with our opening question, and as always, you haven't been given this opening question yet.
I never get the opening question anymore.
I've had plenty of time to think about this one. It was sent to me by Kingsley, who was sitting around a fire at a mountain bike festival, which I like. I like the idea of. And he and his son came up with this one. And so, what sport would you be at if you had one chance only to see it live, but we want to know the exact point that you're watching it from? Now, Kingsley and I did this activity just for our own enjoyment, and we did a top 5.
Right, okay.
I'll let you have a couple if you like.
All right, well, while I think about this...
I'll give you some of Kingsley's while you think about this.
Okay, yeah, all right, go for it, yep.
Top 5, so Skyline at Bathurst.
Yep.
For those people listening at home, check out Bathurst Skyline. It is a pretty spectacular thing. Lukey Heights at Phillip Island, MotoGP.
Yes, been there.
The Grandstand at Daytona Turn 4. That one I didn't know anything about.
I'm just trying to think where that is.
Yeah. A Scandinavian rally on the backside of one of those big, crazy jumps.
Yeah, okay.
I like that one. That's quite good because that's on snow and everything.
Okay, yep.
What do you? Have you got an initial one for me?
An initial one. So, like, just any sport? Or
It can be any sport.
Motorsport,
do you want me to give you a couple of mine?
Yeah. I got that.
All right. From the last yacht after the chicane coming out of the tunnel. So there's a bunch on the chicane coming out of the tunnel at Monaco.
Yes.
Sorry, at Monaco, of course.
Yep.
The last yacht. So then you can actually see around the corner a little bit. You can see them coming out of the tunnel, through the chicane, coming towards you, and then they go around the corner, pretty much around your yacht.
Yep.
I reckon that'd be a good spot. Don't know if you'll be able to see this. Well, you see the entry to the swimming pool. I don't know if you'd see much of the swimming pool because the fence will get in the way. In the new grandstand at En Rouge, at Spa, for me. You know the new grandstand they've put in where the house is? Or used to be?
Yes, I do, yep.
In the members at Lords, for
Members at Lords.
for an Ashes test. First level, if possible, please.
Speaking of, happening.
No, it's raining.
Oh, good.
Otherwise, we would be very, very... Yeah, so put listeners into the time frame. It's day 5 of the first test, and Australia needs 179 to win with 7 wickets in hand.
Yep, and English listeners, I hope you have a horrible day.
Yeah, piss off you and your Robinson. No, it's been enthralling. The way they're playing cricket is enthralling.
Just on a side note, how's the crowd last night with Nathan T20?
I love it.
Better. Sorry, that's an insult to Test cricket because I hate T20.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I think just incredible.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a great show. I was lucky enough to go to an Ashes game when I was there. Another one would be from the Cop, watching Liverpool thrash Man United. Mm-hmm. Or on the wing, watching the Bombers on the MCG.
All right, cool. Yeah.
What do you got for me?
Yeah, I'll give you 2. I'll give you a race-related one and a non-race-related one. I will go for my race one. The house on the corner of turn 17 at Imola.
Oh, yeah.
Just as you come through, is it Ravazza? You come through Ravazza, 17, 18 now. Just that the little terracotta-looking house.
Yes.
Just because the window looks perfectly out there.
I think every Formula 1 fan has spotted that and be like, I want to live there.
Just peaceful. Like, I just want to live there. Just look it straight out. Awesome shot of coming down the hill into Ravazza straight out. So I think that'd be great. I think that'd be great.
Yeah.
And then if I'm going to go my non-sporting one, he's like a real just random left field one.
Ooh.
So at an NFL Super Bowl in a place known as the Sniper's Nest, which is exactly what it is. So above the Super Bowl on the indoor stadiums, they have like a little channel that goes across the middle of the field, like dead center of the field, and it's known as the Sniper's Nest. And because of security reasons, I watched an incredible documentary on it because I didn't know it existed many, many years ago. And they actually have snipers that sit in there, and should there be some sort of terrorist attack or anything like that, or something untoward going on in the crowd, there is a sniper there that has 360-degree view of the crowd.
Wow,
which would be incredible. So imagine being directly above the field, dead centre, and then having a 360-degree view of the whole field.
I imagine that'd be a pretty terrible spot to watch a game.
Interesting.
It'd be incredibly interesting, but in terms of following that game, I think it'd be terrible.
I reckon you'd have a perfect view of the plays unfolding. Anyway, I love my NFL, so
yeah,
that would be it. So there's a place that I'm sure probably people out there didn't think
Great
that a
question.
place like that existed. Good question. Different question.
Yeah, I like it.
Different.
Let's get into the race.
All right, let's get into the race.
So, it was a weekend that was practice was caused some disarray due to...
So P1, CCTV footage going down.
Yes, it reminded me a lot of Australia this year.
I thought so too. We had a GPS issue.
Yeah, they managed to fix that up pretty quick, whereas this one they didn't, so then they extended practice 2, which it was a really important day in practice. We talk about the fact that we could probably get rid of practice quite often at some places.
Yep.
At least one practice session, possibly 2. This was a weekend where teams really wanted to get their gear together. They've been testing stuff, introducing new bits and pieces. There was quite a few teams that really wanted to get a good feel for Canada and test a lot of new parts and bits and pieces. And it was called short, and due to some technical issues, so they extended to make it an hour and a half, the second practice session. Teams sort of got their information together, and then they made their way through. But they still felt a little underdone. They wanted to have some time to sort of evaluate and then come up with what they want to do next for the next practice session. And their sort of run times were sort of thrown into disarray. They weren't getting as many quality jobs done. They weren't getting as many long runs done and doing the testing and stuff. So it caused some issues for teams, which... Yeah, if you listen to the podcast, I'm always a big fan of making sure it's hard for teams.
What did you think of the extended session?
I didn't mind it.
I
didn't mind it too much.
I liked it.
Yeah.
I could just have that for the week.
Yeah, it's race weekend. Different conversation to be had. But yeah, it was an interesting one. And then we got into qualifying, and qualifying was a wet qualifying session, which caused a few dramas for some teams. And teams weren't able to switch on the way that they wanted to, and we were looking like we're going to have some early big exits, and then they sort of came through with the goods and got the job done. And then the final qualifying session was cut short due to, was it a crash in the end? I can't actually remember.
I think so, yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Can't remember who it was in the end. But it left Nico Hülkenberg second on the grid.
Hasn't it just gone to show, you can almost start... you could seriously start thinking about putting money on Haas in the wet to actually be a top 3 qualifier, because their general qualifying run is to go out early and have that. They're always out first.
Yep.
And I mean, you saw in Brazil, like, no fluke now in hindsight, because they're always out first. So I've also noticed that Red Bull have started to change theirs. Did you notice in Q3 Max was out first?
Every time.
Straight out first. So I've just sort of started paying a little bit more attention to that.
It's an interesting one. I mean, Red Bull, and I had that come through my mind as well. Red Bull have got the ability to do that.
Yep.
Because they're generally going to be fast enough. If they don't qualify out number 1, they're going to be qualifying number 2 or 3.
True.
And the rest of the race pace is going to get the job done for them. So they can afford to do that, stay out of trouble.
Yeah.
Because the only way that they don't win a race is if they finish at the back of the field, and it becomes a bit hard to get through, even though we've seen Max sort of manage to achieve that anyway. But yeah, so it was an interesting one, and Albon sort of done something similar in the second practice session and qualifying session, and yeah, it was an interesting race. We saw glimpses of what teams were capable of. Once again, though, we saw teams really mess it up. Ferrari once again messed it up.
Yeah,
and it was just like, oh well, that's Ferrari. That's what they do these days. And then we get into the race and we see quite different. So there was the havoc of qualifying, or not necessarily havoc, but teams out or drivers out of position. The race sort of sorted all that out, and it was a range of strategies that did that, but it was an interesting race, I thought, in terms of we still sorted things out. The Ferrari boys managed to make their way through the field with some good strategy calls.
Yeah.
And there was some overtaking in the race, so I didn't mind that part of it, but we saw Max way out in front.
It was crazy.
The championship's over.
Yeah.
I called it a couple of weeks ago.
You did call it a couple of weeks ago.
And you thought it was going a little early.
I did. I think I'm just you're gonna have to give me a couple more weeks before I jump on board with that with you. I still have a glimmer of hope that it's not, although, I mean, you'd be pretty fair to say that it kind of is, but anyway.
There'll be a bunch of listeners just going, come on, Tristan.
That's true. And that's true. Yeah, absolutely. I'm with him on it.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'll need a couple more weeks before I absolutely call it.
So we saw Max have a race that it just looked like he was in a world of his own. It was an easy task. Max is winning races easily at the moment. And that's just a clear understatement at the moment. He's doing it so easily. But what you do need to take in consideration when we talk about Max and his wins is Perez.
Yeah.
And Perez is no slouch in a car. He's a quality driver. Mm-hmm. He's making an absolute mess of being in a Red Bull at the moment.
I think so too.
So I think that really puts into place where Max is at the moment as a driver. He is just making life look so easy, and Perez is doing the opposite. He's making it look like maybe Red Bull's not the clear favourite car.
Maybe. I don't know. They said the other week that the pressure was totally off Perez. And then,
which it is, because they don't really care where he finishes, let's be honest.
I disagreed with you the other week on that. I think they do, because they don't. Where was he this week? So he was 6th this weekend. Mm-hmm. But again, in the fastest car. But then I think right back to the Gasly years, where even Christian Horner himself said, 6th and 7th is no good to us.
The difference between those years and these years is they're winning world championships.
That's
and they're
true.
winning constructor championships.
And that's where I kind of feel like it is a little bit more prominent this year, because it is the fastest car. So while 6th, 5th and 7th is no good to them, they shouldn't be in that realm with the second car at all. And
I completely agree.
Perez has had a couple of really, really difficult weekends. He had a really good hot run of form a couple of weeks ago. He's sort of had a couple of weekends that are a little bit off, and then I feel like the pressure is starting to come back on. In the sense of the pressure is not on, the only person that I think the pressure is off now is probably Christian Horner and Helmut Marko and Red Bull, because they do not have the pressure of having to decide who they're going to back throughout a race. Because every weekend it's we'll back Max, because he is clearly skipping and running away with the title. I feel like when they talk about that's where the pressure isn't on the management of the team between the two drivers. So I think Perez needs to be really, really on it, where third is... I feel like third is the only pass mark that you can give him for a weekend all of a sudden. I don't know if I'm being a bit too harsh or not there, but
How can you be being a bit harsh when Max is doing it so easily?
well, and that's it. Like you think about when Max has a really rough qualifying, so like Max in 11th, say he'll win that. You can almost guarantee to win it. Whereas if you look at Checo, if he qualifies somewhere like 11th, he's still only making his way up to like 6th, 5th, and you're kind of thinking you've still got probably 2 or 3 more cars that you need to be up there. So I know it sounds harsh, but I feel like at the moment 3rd is the acceptable pass mark. 4th is not okay. 5th is not okay. 6th, and I think Red Bull themselves are probably going back to that mantra that it is absolutely no good to you being in what is going to go down as one of the best vehicles that we have ever seen in Formula 1 ever. Of the 9 races, they've won them all. Like literally no one. They have 100% strike rate with that car, and it's kind of scary to think that I actually don't think we've seen the full potential of this either. Because Max out front is not having that car on an absolute knife edge every race weekend. He is just going about pressure free, potting around, and I reckon that car has got another 40% to give.
Yeah, look,
it is an absolute weapon of a thing.
I agree. I think like people were saying, the Aston Martin and the Mercedes were much closer this weekend, and they absolutely were closer this weekend.
I think the Aston had made huge steps forward.
But I think if Max needed to push that car, I think there's another couple of tenths in there.
Oh, I reckon there's a whole. I know it sounds silly. I reckon there's a whole nother second in it.
Yeah, that does, really do. That does sound silly. Yeah. But I agree. There is much more to be had out of that car. I don't think Max talked about this weekend that he had to push the car to keep the tyres on.
Yep.
And I don't think that absolutely if the pressure was on, he could push it a bit harder. I don't think Max is the sort of guy that can drive it 40% slower. I mean, no one can drive a car 40% slower. But yeah, I tend to agree. There is certainly more there to be got if required. Do you read into the fact that they've caught up a little bit?
No. Oh, yeah. Yeah, yes and no.
What gave me confidence is Alonso's confidence.
Oh, yeah.
He came out and was expecting to be able to push Red Bull for a win this weekend.
Yeah, I think he did. I think a win is coming. It really, really is. It could very well be next race. And
well, it's because it came. The reason I'm confident is because it came with some upgrades. Yes. He was happy with the upgrades.
Yes, they worked really,
really well.
He
was happy with the performance of the car, and so my confidence comes from, all right, well, this is a junior team. Like, let's not look. They've got huge resources and moved into a brand new factory, which is, by all reports, the best in the business now.
Absolutely.
But it's still a junior team in terms of they haven't had experience of chasing down teams here. But
no, but
it's going to come. Yeah, that's right. It's going to come along a little bit, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And so I'm fairly comfortable with the fact that, all right, they're going to be chasing him down. Red Bull's already come out and said that they're working on next year's car. So they're not going to be developing because they've got the limited resources this year. They're not going to be developing this year's car, so we might start to see.
Really need to develop
exactly. That's where they've come from. So he is going to be pulling it in a little bit. So I think there is a little bit of confidence to be gained. I think Mercedes also have made a good gain with their car, and that's very early in their process because I mean they've made some fairly major changes. More are coming. So I think to see a more positive result with the way Mercedes are going, they were competitive with the Aston Martin there throughout most of the race. So I think we can take a little bit of solace out of seeing them closer to the pack, or to the leaders, sorry. And so so there's a little bit to be enjoyed there.
I'm going to disagree with you on the Mercs, because I don't think Mercs have made the gains in order to progress up the field. I actually think Mercedes are making their gains because Stroll is having a horror patch of form at the moment, and I think Ferrari have gone backwards. Yeah. And so for me, Mercedes have stayed in position.
But not from the start of the season.
No, not from the start of the season. I'm talking about the last 3 or 4
I'm not
weeks.
Talking about.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about last
year.
I'm talking about last year. We're talking about this year. From the start of where they were, they've pulled it right back. I mean, in the end, they were only 5 seconds off Alonso. Now that you can't necessarily read into race time.
True, because Alonso was nursing a brake issue as well.
Yep.
And then you think about that potential win for Fernando too. Max had a bird stuck in. Oh, I'd have to find the photo.
Yeah,
I don't know if you've seen, they actually had an image of one of the engineers who had pulled the bird out.
Yep.
Jeez.
Yep, there'll be some.
Bird was in a bad way.
There'll be some aero thing. But yeah, so what I'm not saying that Mercedes are going to be pushing necessarily Red Bull just at this point, but we're seeing some good progression. I agree. I think Aston Martin is still the next fastest team. Ferrari saw some improvements, mainly around strategy, but we did see improvements this year. So there's a little bit of hope, isn't there, that it's not just going to be all Ferraris. All Red Bulls season for the rest of the year. The championship's done. I said it 2 weeks ago, and I'll say it again now. That championship is done. It's all Max's.
All right.
No one's taking it off him, because even if they catch up with him, doesn't mean they're going to beat him.
Well, he's probably got the points in the bank now, doesn't he?
That's the thing. They're not going to beat him, and he's not going to drop out of races like all the others have. So if they happen to beat him, which I think they can catch up with him, but I don't think they can beat him this year.
I think they can catch him too. I totally agree with you there.
I can't see them actually beating him. And so it's certainly Max's championship. But there was nice little signs there, I thought. The Russell crash.
How he continued to keep going is beyond me. Like, he's absolutely beyond me. And then he
smashed that wall, didn't he?
He hit that wall at an absolute rapid rate of knots. And that thing held together.
We've seen the Mercedes do that in the past,
We have, and it doesn't... I mean, it surprised me that he continued on, because he was straight up, I'm out, I'm done. And that he hit at the angle of the rear rim, he hit the suspension right at the point where, you would feel that both wishbones and push rods had pretty much disintegrated, to be quite honest. Mm-hmm. I'm surprised the rear wing held on like it did, because of the angle that he hit. But then to keep going, and then he made his way straight back up into 10th at a rate of knots, which is incredible. I thought his driving across the weekend was elite. And while I was sort of cheering for my fantasy, because I saw the person in front of me put George in. I thought, yes, he's out. Awesome. Minus 20 points. And then I was sort of really impressed with his drive, and at the same time frustrated, because I thought, God, he's just gone from last to 10th, and he's going to storm through a little bit of the old Mercedes trauma, I guess, if you will. Mm-hmm. And then I was heartbroken for him, because with 15 to go, they retired it. And I just sort of thought, God, why did you keep going? If with 15 to go, you were going to retire it, when there was actually a point on offer. And I felt with that many laps to go, you've come this far, well, you might as well just bloody keep going 15 more laps, and you just score some points.
Oh, I wonder whether they were a bit concerned about the state of play with the gearbox, and
maybe
don't want to carry this one through.
And I can totally respect that in terms of penalties later on down the end, but I was heartbroken with the amount to go. So if you're going to do it, 25, 30 to go, call it in, that's fine. Not with 15. No, and as a driver, you'd be furiously frustrated for putting in all that work like he did. So anyway, that credit to whatever that is made of, because my goodness, he hit that really hard. And we should have been out.
And we've seen Lewis just produce a little flex recently.
Yes.
He's gotten like Russell sort of had the measure of him throughout the early parts of the season, like we'd seen the year before.
Yep.
And we've just seen Hamilton just saying, you know what, I'm not done yet.
It looks a little bit happier, but happier now that they're winning? I don't like that.
No, they're not winning.
No, but looking more competitive.
Yeah, yep.
You got to stick with it. Anyway.
I don't know any drivers that look happy.
No, I agree, but yes, anyway.
Charles Leclerc. It was an interesting old race for Ferrari. I mean, there's certainly improvements being made there. Yep. They're not fast enough. There's no doubt about it. And they're coming out and saying they're not fast enough.
Yep. But
there was certainly some improvements there. It's nice to see them get strategy right for a start.
Did they?
Qualifying, absolutely they did. Qualifying put them into, where were they qualifying into? They started in 8th position and in 11th position. And then they made their way forward through the grid to finish in 4th and 5th ahead of Red Bull. Didn't allow the Red Bull in front of them. Yes, Russell crashed out, so probably knock them back one. But no, I thought it was pretty good. They managed to stay out longer on the mediums. It was the sort of race where I was watching Piastri, because he was having a nice start to the race.
Yes, he was having a really, really great start. I think he was 5th at one stage.
Yeah, and
sixth, sorry.
Not that I want to talk about Piastri at this particular moment, take the Ferraris, but after the first lot of pit stops, I'm like, hang on. Oh, this might have been the second lot of pit stops. Hang on. Why isn't Piastri bouncing back and being even with the Ferraris? But it was because the Ferraris hung out, didn't jump in for the safety car like everyone else did, ran longer on the mediums, and showed a little bit of bravery, which I quite liked from the Ferraris this time around.
So the hard tyre is absolutely not working on the Ferrari at all whatsoever. And if you go back and have a look, I did a little bit of a sort of mini watch of some of the races that we've just had. Mm-hmm. Wherever the hard tyre comes into play,
yes,
the deficit from Ferrari to the rest of the field is enormous. and that they're not running well. So now that I've gone back and had a look at that, while watching, you saw them miss the opportunity to pit on a safety car. And like most Ferrari fans were probably throwing things at the television going, what are you doing? Because immediately you're 25 seconds behind whoever's in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
But
that was all about avoidance, you reckon?
From what I'm looking at, it would scream, we're avoiding the hard tyre at all costs.
The belief is that they're feeling more comfortable though this weekend, so they feel like they've got a couple of things under control. But yeah, I tend to agree with you. But if you looked at all the times, it was too early to jump off the mediums, ideally, and they made that work. So track position was really key here, and they made that work really well. Helps that they got a faster car than some of those cars that they jumped. But yeah, so that all worked out really well for them. And then, they did actually make those hards work quite well. So, they had a much better race. Good to see them working together as a team. Carlos Sainz said, I'm not going to put Charles under pressure. Carlos Sainz did not have the race weekend to be putting anyone under pressure other than himself.
The only person under pressure for the race weekend was Carlos Sainz. Just in a nutshell on Sainz, one of the, if not the, worst weekend for the year. No driver will have a worse weekend than what Sainz has just had.
I wonder whether Sainz has had one of those weekends already this year. Feels like he's already had one of these.
His impediment of drivers was ridiculous. His backing up of himself in the Ferrari was just stupid. He was in the way. He come out and said, I was impeded 7 times. What a load of absolute garbage. You're impeded 7 times in a row by either a person or a group of people, because we didn't see 7 penalties. So that's absolute garbage. And he just played dumb. Which, I get that, you've got your media managers in your ear talking about that, but I'll tell you what, that was shocking. And I absolutely fully back Gasly and everything he said and his reaction to that on Saturday in particular in quali, because that was hideous. And he didn't do it once, he did it multiple times.
He did it
multiple times. It was just, it was ridiculous. It was one of the most ridiculous weekends I've ever seen from a Formula 1 driver.
The Gasly one was tricky.
No, not at all.
Because Yuki stepped in front of him.
It was more he was in the middle of the road. And then even in race trim, he was in the middle of the road while Norris that was going past him or Hülkenberg was going past him. Like he broke. It was almost like he was that last corner.
He was preparing for his fast lap.
Yes, but not
in
the middle of the road.
But the problem was, so he was going to go, and then Yuki jumped in front of him, stepped in front of him, which caused him to have to delay his step up. Which is why then all of a sudden, I'm in no man's land. So I felt for him, he shouldn't have been there. I agree. He certainly impeded Gasly, and it had a huge effect on Gasly.
Massively. Totally missed out on his lap.
But the extenuating circumstances was Yuki did this unusual little jump of him. I actually think Yuki should have nearly been penalised, but there's not really grounds for that.
No, because...
But Yuki threw him out by doing that.
You got to sort yourself out. These boys do this week in, week out. They're experienced people. But he did it in race trim as well.
Yeah.
Moving under braking in the zone, it was just in that corner. It was almost like he had no idea what to do in that corner. I just thought it was shocking racing from him this weekend.
Well, solid hit.
Yep, solid hit. Deserved.
Let's get on a more positive note.
Okay, let's.
Alexander Albon.
Wow. What a return to just from the depths of being cast out from Red Bull to then finding a home in Williams, and then he would have to be one of the most informed drivers right now. If you're going to go the three most informed drivers right now outside of Max Verstappen, you would say him, and you would say Yuki, and then you'd probably say Zhou, to be quite honest, because he is absolutely flying. And if anyone's going to get a seat in the top team, it's probably not going to be Dan, because you'd be looking at Albon, and it's probably not going to be Mick, because if you had your choice of those 3 boys, you'd be taking Albon right now.
Jeez, you've come from a long way back on this.
I know, but I'm just saying, if a seat comes available right now, all right, let's say Lewis retires, he's not going to. Let's say Leclerc leaves Ferrari. That's probably the most likely thing to happen right now, isn't it? Let's say Leclerc leaves Ferrari, and Ferrari have got Dan, they've got Alex, and they've got Mick Schumacher in front of you. As if you are not taking Alex right now. Like today, that seat's just come available right now. All 3 are standing in front of you. You are taking Alex.
How many points do you reckon you're giving him for this season, Mr. He's the most informed driver?
Minimal. I reckon I've given him minimal, just on a personal voting note.
He hasn't received a vote from us this year.
It's fair.
Well, he can't be the informed driver. He had a great race.
He is right now. He's right now the most informed driver.
He had one great... Like, I'm a big fan of his. I've been on him all season.
I think Australia, he was incredible Australia and very unlucky to drop it.
I've been on him.
Yep.
I've been on Williams.
Yep. Yes,
probably more hope than anything. But he's had a good race.
He's had a great race.
He had... Yeah. I couldn't agree more. He's had a great race.
Yep.
I think everyone can guess that we're going to be giving him our top points.
Absolutely.
So he's going to get some points now. But what I'm getting at is, well, let's not get carried away. The boy hasn't actually... He's scored 7 points.
I'm all right with that.
For the season.
I'm all right.
Look, I think that's great too, but I wouldn't go calling out that he's absolutely going to be the first man into a seat. Red Bull ain't going to pick him up.
No, Red Bull aren't.
No.
No, Red Bull aren't. But
So
others
who
would.
will? Who?
Others would. Ferrari would.
Not a chance.
Ferrari would pick him up.
Off what he's produced so far this season, there is no way that he's going to be stepping into that seat yet. Not yet.
Not that it's available, but I just think
there's more. We've got to see more from him. But it was a great race.
it's a phenomenally good race.
I just think you're jumping on after one big one.
That's okay.
Stay off my man, his mind. His partner in crime, Logan Sargent, did not finish.
Didn't fire a shot for the weekend again.
Yeah. What's the plan there?
Don't know.
Tom Clarkson came out and said,
Don't know.
"Oh, I think Alex Albon's now the clear team leader."
Yep, fair.
Fair. Talk about understatement of the year. He was a team leader last year.
Very true. I don't know. I don't know that a 9-race rookie is leading a team ever anywhere.
Yeah, I just thought it was a strange comment, but yeah, it's not the greatest of seasons for him.
Yep.
At this stage.
That's very true.
But I'm not sure what they do about that, because they've got one driver who is producing some really fantastic races at the moment, picking up some nice points for a Williams. In terms of 7 points for Williams at this stage of the season is quite significant. And then the other side of the garage just is not working at the moment.
See, that's where I think he's starting to have a little bit of a George-esque Williams career. Like, he's starting to...
I absolutely agree, and I just think he needs to be built upon to get there. Logan Sargent not going so well. Esteban Ocon.
He's on a steady run of form, isn't it? It was another steady weekend.
He could be your form driver.
He could be your form driver of the year, but I'd probably say no. But yeah, just a steady weekend. He's found a really comfortable spot. That Alpine is looking good. I think someone actually put in one of our Facebook posts, I think it was on Armchair Experts, where they actually had a video from Canada of, obviously, Ocon's stop throughout the weekend, and it was just in front of you. But it's a wonderful little video shot. Let's see if I can find it and put it up for people. There's a wonderful little video shot of the new aero package that's actually happening on the Alpine, and it looks fantastic. And I think the upgrades are working well. He's really comfortable with the car. Gasly is providing really good support. He's just in a really happy place at the moment. And he hasn't got that pressure of having to look for a seat too. Like there were a few years ago where he was looking for a seat, then he was out, then he was back in, then he was on a 1-year contract.
Well, I wonder whether Esteban Ocon, I was thinking about this, I think he's actually contracts up at the end of this year.
I will have a look.
Yeah, but I thought the same thing. I thought he seems like a settled driver. We were expecting the Gasly Ocon thing to blow up in their face, weren't we? No, and it's just petered into being a nothing.
Well, that's where, and I know when that was first sort of aired in the media, I thought, really, they don't like each other? I don't know anything about this.
It surprised everybody.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's an interesting...
So no, it's not up this year.
Is it next? It
might be next year or the year after.
Okay, yeah.
So he looks comfortable, kind of...
Because I remember us being surprised that they'd sign him on a longer-term deal.
Yeah, so that's probably it. It's that comfort zone. It's I don't have to go all guns blazing now, every weekend, fighting for my career, knowing that next year I've got to grab another contract somewhere.
Yep.
So he's obviously comfortable. They've invested in him long term. He's feeling good about what he's doing, and he can start slowly building, which is what he's doing at the moment.
His teammate Gasly, he was looking pretty good through qualifying, and then got screwed over with that moment with Sainz.
Yep.
And it sort of ruined the rest of his weekend. You sort of hope that you'd hope that an Alpine would make their way through the field a little bit more, though. I mean, he had a Bottas in front of him. He had a McLaren or two in front of him.
Yep.
You sort of feel like, he maybe did not make the most of it. It felt like the qualifying put him off, because he was looking quite good in qualifying.
Yep.
The qualifying put him off, and then all of a sudden his race weekend had gone. I was expecting a little bit more from him. He was a victim of DRS. trains,
Yeah.
wasn't he? And so
One of the worst trains I reckon I've seen for a very long time.
for a little
Would you not
while.
agree?
For a little while,
Yep.
Yep. But yeah, so it was an interesting one with Pierre Gasly, but Ocon probably being able to match Gasly at the moment. Not necessarily putting him away, but match him at the moment. I think that's probably where the confidence has come from as well. We didn't talk about Lance Stroll.
I didn't know we needed to.
It's for the first time ever, something was reported on his dad putting a little bit of pressure on him.
And I think that's good. I think it's good.
Do you think it was real? So for those who missed it, his daddy,
Yep.
Mr. Billionaire himself, said that he expects
A 1-2. He wanted
he
a
expected
a
1-2.
double podium.
Yeah,
Sorry, not a 1-2.
Yeah, double
a
podium.
double podium is
But
what he expected.
But he also expected both cars to be up there
Yep.
with the way this
Yep.
car's going.
I've been saying for a very long time, and even this year again, you have to start asking the question. And right at the very start of the season, we talked about this, and just how far the deficit will be to Fernando. Now, at the start of the year, steadily keeping pace, not too bad, and he's had a couple of weekends where he's right behind him. But I think this weekend in particular was absolutely glaring, because all through practice, you've got Fernando top 3, and you've got Lance at literally bookending the field. And that gap is too much.
He's 80 points ahead
That's ridiculous.
at the not even mid-season mark.
Imagine the
this season.
heat that we'd be putting on Perez if Perez was 80 points behind. We'd probably use 80 points behind.
I was going to say,
I was going to say, we're putting heat on Perez with that. You have to. You have to. Aston Martin have to. If you're going to invest and you want these world titles, Fernando, I mean, he probably could, but he can't win that title on his own. He can't take a constructors on his own. It's not possible. He has to have some sort of support. The constructors for Red Bull is a different story, because Checo is giving him no support, because Checo has won a couple of races and he has had multiple podiums. But you have to start asking the question, and not just hearsay or gossip in the media. You have to seriously start asking it. How serious are we as a team? How serious are we as a company, as an organisation, as a sporting competitive body? Like, you have to say, do we need someone else?
See, Checo is 70 points behind.
Yeah.
So 80 to 70.
And we're asking serious questions
The
of him.
difference is that Checo is in second in the championship.
Yeah.
And Alonso's in third. So you can expect, all right, maybe there's a bit of a gap back.
Yeah.
But to be so far back...
It's so far. It's so far. Yeah. And I think it was magnified this weekend. It really, really was. Like, magnified beyond belief how far back he was. So...
And it's not just he's out of luck, things aren't falling his way.
64.5 seconds behind him.
It generally is. Qualifying is not good enough.
No, he's out of position.
It sometimes starts in practice where he can't quite make things work properly.
Yep.
And Yep.
Like, he owns that podium spot.
Yep.
So, yeah.
He did actually pick up a penalty too for qualifying, but it wasn't like he qualified in an amazing spot anyway.
No, but still, anyway. To finish that far back, he should have... And that's it. You've got your teammate who is literally second every weekend, and if he's not second, he's third.
How did Bottas end up in 10th?
I thought Bottas had a stellar weekend.
How did he end up in 10th? Because he started behind... Oh, sorry. Yeah. Where did he start, actually?
He started right a long way down. But he came out last week
he
right at
started
the end.
15th.
Yep, he came right out at the end of last week and said, we're ready to go this weekend. So he knew. I think the team knew that they had the package to compete here.
But to start
at Canada.
It can't have been that good because qualifying, I mean,
qualifying
maybe it was a session because it was wet, I guess. But to move through the field, I mean, strategy obviously was the way forward, and he was another one that made the most of the strategy. Yep. But it was it was an interesting race. It was unexpected because he's if you're talking form drivers, Alex Albon, Ocon.
Yep.
He is an out-of-form driver.
Absolutely he is.
And like a weirdly out-of-form driver. Because it's not something you'd... While he had quiet weekends, he wouldn't generally be really poor with Mercedes, whereas it's not something you would generally associate with Bottas being
No,
out of form.
I totally
He's just
agree with you.
a steady Eddie sort of
Yep.
getting the job done. But yeah, no, it was a great weekend for him.
His best of the year. If last weekend was his worst, this weekend was his best.
You mentioned that Zhou's in form. It wasn't his race this weekend.
No, it wasn't his this weekend.
He was a little bit critical of a few things of the way his team ran things this weekend throughout qualifying and throughout the race. But I sort of like that he's now expecting to be a little bit further up there.
Yep, which is good, and I think that'll just bode well for him in the future.
Absolutely.
It's still that learning curve he's on.
Yep, couldn't agree more. Piastri was actually the next one to mention in 11th, just missed a point. Had a great start to the race.
Fantastic start to the race. So 5th and 6th, really looking good, and it's just a steady, slow build across the weekend.
Yeah, picked up a couple of spots at the front, lost one, but then fought back and was one of those ones that actually had the overtake during the race. And I think it was
qualifying. He was absolutely pinning it. I think he nicked the Wall of Champions as he was going through in Q1.
Having a real crack.
Yeah, which was great. So we're sort of starting to learn that Oscars weekend is a slow, steady, learning, building weekend, and then making his way into qualifying and going, I've got all the tools across the practice sessions. I know what I'm going to do. Now I'm going to go ahead and execute it. So he's a real clinical racer, isn't he?
Which is the way they generally talked about his seasons in when he won the F2, F3, that he would build that season up from a base.
Yep, really methodical, the way that he goes about it. So, yeah, I like that. But just learning more about him across the weekend.
In saying that, he still hasn't come to grips with that car under all circumstances. Looked really strong on the medium at the start and had more to give. He's one that certainly shouldn't have come in early because of the position that he was on track.
Yep.
You can understand why they pulled the trigger because it seemed like it was about the right time. But yeah, it sort of cost him big time and ended up stuck in traffic quite a lot. He also hasn't quite got that pace with Norris. Norris is still clearly the faster driver through most of the conditions. But no, it was nice to see him get a little bit of racing done. And I love that he was grumpy he didn't get that point.
I thought he matched Norris pretty well this weekend.
Yeah, towards the end on the hards, Norris had a fair bit more speed.
Yes. And even with the penalty,
generally pretty
still
good.
Only a couple of seconds off him.
Yep. So yeah, no, it was one of those ones. Norris showed nice little signs, but still that McLaren not quite there. Big upgrades coming.
Yes.
Big upgrades coming.
Yep.
Austria is going to be summer, and then Silverstone. So 2 weekends of upgrades.
Yep.
You'd have to hope that they're going to be doing something decent. Yuki Tsunoda come from some really competitive weekends to probably less competitive weekend this time. Once again, he was one that sort of got caught in DRS trains.
Yeah.
Didn't have the power to power out of that sort of situation. No. Nico Hülkenberg, great qualifying,
right
backwards.
Place, right time. I think we expected the Haas to go backwards rapidly too.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's his spot.
Rapid. It was rapid.
But that's his spot. That's where it was. So if he didn't have that really well timed qualifying lap, he probably qualifies 13th, and then he goes back a couple of spaces, and that's his rightful position in the pecking order.
Probably kept it ahead of those you'd expect. Maybe Yuki, you would have hoped that maybe he kept it ahead.
Helped the front runners skip away because he wasn't a cork in the bottle at one stage.
Yep. Anyone else want to mention?
No.
Nick de Vries, no good still. Not the season you're hoping for.
No, you're right. Just no good still.
All right, let's put in Albon's name, Hammy.
All right, yes, Alex Albon, 3 votes.
All signs 3, 2, and 1 for the race in Canada. Alex Albon, 3 points for both of us.
3
is that
votes,
right?
Yes, absolutely.
Excellent. I'll be looking forward to hearing what else you've got to say.
Good. I'm going to give 2 votes to Valtteri.
Okay.
Yep.
Also, new for Valtteri. I don't think we're giving him any this.
That's fair.
No, not yet. Yep.
That's fair.
Fair enough.
Yep.
2.
That's fair. Yep. And I'm going to give one to Oscar.
Okay. Not bad. Not bad at all.
Yep.
So 3 to Alex for me. I'm gonna give 2 to Ocon. I think Ocon's season is travelling along pretty well. And yeah, look, I'll give 1 to Bottas because he hasn't had the greatest of races. But I was nearly at the point where I was like, I'm going to have to go back and watch to see what the moment was that really propelled him forward. And I was watching a few of the highlights before, and I was like, oh yeah, there's a few little decisions there that sort of really helped out. Dud of the day. I reckon this is actually quite difficult.
Is it really?
Yeah, well, no, maybe not.
Plethora to choose from.
Okay, I'm looking forward.
I could say science, but I'm not going to.
Okay.
I'm actually going to go with the general Formula One media across the weekend, who, after Lando Norris received a penalty for unsportsmanlike conduct, then spent the next half an hour at telling me how wonderful of a human being that he is, and that they were really unhappy. Ted Kravitz in particular. Your man Ted.
Ted was on it, wasn't he?
And just like, can you not say unsportsmanlike? Like, can you actually say something different for what it was? I have no doubt that all 20 drivers on the grid are wonderful human beings.
And they generally are, actually.
And they generally are. And then when a penalty is applied, it has nothing to do in any way, shape or form with them as a person. Lando deliberately slowed under safety car conditions for a double stack. I am not fazed that he's British and that we have British commentary, and I don't care how much of a wonderful person that he is. You cannot then spend the next half an hour on commentary and social media across the next few days to tell me how that was not okay, even in the pen. When you're asking him questions, you're not an unsportsmanlike person. No, he's not. But he broke the rules by deliberately backing up his car for a double stack. So you get your penalty. And I just think that was absolute. It frustrated the hell out of me across the race weekend. It really, really did. To hear that. It was just stupid comments.
Tell me though, why did they call it unsportsmanlike?
Because that's exactly what it is.
No, but why wasn't it named as... No, I agree with you. There was a weird response from a bunch of media to get all upset about it. Yep. But yeah, it took me as a little strange that they didn't just say it was a infringement under the yellow flag.
Yeah. Because, and that's it. And the reason that they don't do that is, so for example, you've got your unsportsmanlike conduct, which is just a wide range of general unsportsmanlike conduct. You don't have a checkpoint list of every possible unsportsmanlike scenario, because that can be in the form of anything. It can be in the form of, Verstappen and Ocon in Brazil when they came to blows. It can be in the form of Seven Lewis at Baku when he deliberately drove alongside him and hit him. So you don't have a penalty for, punching on at the weighbridge, or you don't have a penalty titled, sideswiping a car while going slowly because you think he brake tested you. You have that general overview that if what you've done is frowned upon and it's not in the spirit of racing, which that's not. That's what it's called for. So I don't want to, don't complain at us that you want a literal dot point list of every possible scenario. You don't have a dot point list of, taking advantage, gaining an unfair advantage while you're racing, because that can come in the form of cutting a corner. It can be taking the wrong path through the re-entry points. It can be being pushed wide. It was petty. Don't go and add something about how wonderful of a human he is and then say he shouldn't deserve it. I don't care how wonderful a human he is. He broke the rules.
I agree.
Yep.
I don't think should be called unsportsmanlike.
Don't attach something else to it, which is what I really felt the commentary did. I tried to attach the fact that he's nice.
No, I agree with actually both of you.
They're all nice.
I agree with both of you. I think they went on about it far too much. Yeah. But the wording of unsportsmanlike is a weird way of describing it.
I'll tell you what, Ted.
Just name it.
Ted's having a couple of eyebrows raised at him at the moment across what he's saying in the media, and I think after this weekend, I'm starting to think. Maybe some people are on it, what he's saying, because he's throwing things around about Lewis and his title in 2021 and still making comments about Red Bull and and then now he's talking about don't give it to Lando because he's lovely. I don't know, just pare it back a bit, just be a little bit more mindful of what you're saying, because it's starting to build form,
Don't tell anyone. Don't tell anyone, but I agree with you on Ted.
Oh, yeah. I know, and you love Ted.
He's my man. I love him so much.
Ted, just stop. He's wonderful, brings so much to the sport, and I love it.
There is this... the bias
the bias is enormous. Towards British drivers is huge, and he has to take it out.
That is fine.
That's fine.
But can we just send that feed to England,
or just
and give us the other feeds, or
needs
give us
to be a little bit more subjective when it comes to British drivers. So when British drivers are making poor decisions, you have to just say that. Yep. You can't then be like, oh my God.
You know who I've gained more love for recently?
Tell me.
Martin Brundle.
I love Martin.
I've always really liked his work, but there's a real love for him at the moment, and I think it's about time people jumped on board how great a commentator he is.
He's fantastic.
And how good he is for the sport.
And he's incredibly knowledgeable too.
That's right. He's certainly,
And I love in the commentary, if someone's getting it wrong, he'll be like, No, that's not what it is.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's my dad. Speaking of British people, would you like an update on the Ashes?
Is it not raining?
It's raining.
Yeah. I was going to say, I checked a second ago and they're going to lunch because it was raining.
It's raining.
That's a shame.
It's raining.
Dud of the day. I don't know I honestly don't know if I got a dud.
Surely.
Well, usually, yeah, I'm a pretty critical guy, aren't I?
You are. Danica Patrick was on the commentary.
She was pretty ordinary.
No, it's not.
Did you think she was ordinary? Have you come around to that yet?
Because I really like what she says. I like her input.
I desperately want to like Danica Patrick, but she brings very little to what's being said, even to the point where they were talking about the weather in Las Vegas, and she got in this weird little argument with Jensen Button and Martin Brundle about, no, it wasn't Martin, it was somebody else, about what the temperature was going to be. And then they had to remind her, and it looked a bit silly, but they're like, it's going to be a really late night race, and it gets very cold in the desert at night.
Yes.
And yeah, it was just that she was holding on to this, no, I'm the local, I'll tell you what temperature it's going to be. And clearly they'd already been told, well, it's actually likely to be a really cold race and teams are really worried about it. So no, she's not up to date with Formula 1 at the moment, and she's not bringing anything to it.
So we got a dud?
Thank you, you've talked me into it. Danica's my dud. And I don't want it to be there, because I like her commentary, but yeah, she's not bringing anything to the table. Oh, well. F1.5.
F1.5.
How exciting.
How very exciting. Ready to go. Who do you think's leading? Just give me a quick top.
Esteban Ocon.
Okay, alright, fair. Alrighty. Put my graphic up last week. You happy with that?
Oh, I loved it.
I was just going to do it. I have another one. Alright, bottom to top as usual. Would you like your podium finishes? Let's start with our podium finishes. Podium finishes.
I do like to hear who's on the podium.
So a win for Gasly?
No,
sorry. I'm looking at my old notes.
Oh, I was going to say, have you worked this out, and do you have to quickly work this out while I go?
No, look at the complexity of the book this year.
I understand.
I know. We should raffle this off. I don't think anyone would want it.
No.
A win for Albon. Win for Albon. Second place for Ocon, and third place for Valtteri. Such a podium.
Win for Ocon.
Win for Albon.
Oh, Albon, sorry, yes.
Win for Albon, second for Ocon, and third place for Valtteri. All right, cool. All right, bottom to top as always. Relegated, Logan Sargent. Just did say that I would keep him in the points and just keep calculating. Don't have to. Didn't score any. 17 points.
Nick de Vries been relegated yet?
No, but he's pretty close.
Ooh.
17 after 9. 7 after 9. That's not even 2 points a race on average.
And we're removing 8 different drivers.
We're removing half the field. Anyway, 17 for Logan Sargent. Nick de Vries, 31, teetering on the edge of relegation. Teetering, needs to start scoring.
Oh, it's touch and go.
K-Mag, remember that little run of form I said he went through last year where he didn't score any points? He's just nabbed just 1 this weekend. So K-Mag looking at 50 points. Which is not super, considering, if I'm just going back and looking at my notes here, where was he? After USA, God, he was looking alright after USA. He was about 48, I think it was, after USA. So since America to now, he's only added 2 points. So not going well. Hulk had a pretty decent weekend, up to 51. Alex is the big mover. He was third last weekend on 49, and obviously with the win, he has rocketed.
Now I think about it, you gave him a drive-by on his points last week.
Yes, well, now he's third last.
He was a form driver.
But now he's okay. I'm on him. I'm on him now. He's third last. He's on 43 points. He's rocketed up. He's on 68 points now, which is incredible. He has equal points with Oscar Piastri on 68. He is only 1 point behind Zhou on 69. We've got a real logjam here in the middle.
Ooh.
And then you've got Valtteri on 69 as well.
Ooh.
So Alex, Oscar, Zhou, and Bottas from 68 to 69. That's a real logjam right there.
Fantastic.
Which is
That's the watch zone.
Is terrific. That's your watch zone. You can add into the watch zone too.
We might have an F1.57.
We could 5.7, 5.25 or something like that. You can add Lando Norris into that because he has now come off the podium and he's only on 79. So only 11 points between 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th. Which is huge, and you're right, that's your little watch zone there. Alright, third place, on the podium for the first time this year, Yuki Tsunoda. 84 points.
Wow.
Doing well. Doing really well.
Right in it. I'm really surprised that he's moved into the podium. Who stepped off the podium?
Norris has stepped off the podium.
You done your calculations right?
Yes, I have.
Didn't Norris finish ahead of Yuki?
Yep.
Well, how would Norris go off the podium?
I'll go back and have a look at that, but I'm pretty sure I've got that right. Yep. 78. Yep. Yep. It's only by a couple of points.
Okay.
Yep. So 78, 79 for Norris, 84 for Yuki.
Yep.
Doing really, really well. Gasly on 118.
Ooh. Was he leading last week?
He was leading last weekend, so he's only added the 10, Gaz. And obviously Ocon 121, so now leads.
Science owes him more.
Science does owe him because he's taken his F1.5 spot there.
He won't be happy there.
Anyway, no, he won't be happy at all there.
I'm going to call for a little review of your calculations there.
All right, that's fine.
I'm not sure that Yuki can move ahead if he finishes below.
No, you know why? Sorry, because I've written it right back to front. Yuki was actually on the podium last weekend.
There
Sorry.
you go. That makes sense.
That's why I've moved it back to front.
You were looking at me like you're fairly sure on that one.
You're right, I was pretty sure on that one. Anyway, yes, calculations correct. Last week's notes upside down. So there you go. There's your top three. Ocon, Gasly and Tsunoda. 121, 118 and 84 for Yuki too. So doing very, very well. Yeah, the watch zone. Norris down to Albon. Really, really interesting. Now, a couple other points that we like to throw in there. Fastest lap this weekend goes to K-Mag. So
really?
He joins the party with 1 point. Yep.
K-Mag?
Yep, just cheeky 1 pointers here. So K-Mag joins the fastest lap party with 1.
Oh.
You'd be surprised I'm surprised at who's in the fastest lap group.
Yeah, that is interesting.
And your pole position award obviously goes to Hulk. No brainer there. And he joins it there. So I guess the standings for fastest lap, Gasly's on 3. And then it's just a single point to Zhou, Ocon, Hulk, Norris, and K-Mag joins in the party there. And then your pole position award is also being led by Ocon. So no surprise that your fastest lap and your pole position is being led by your two front runners in F1.5. So Ocon has 3 pole positions, Albon has 1, Norris has 1, Magnussen has 1, and Hulk joins that one as well.
This is the championship. There's no doubt about it. To look for the form drivers outside of the top.
Absolutely.
Yuki Tsunoda. I'm impressed by that man. I'm really impressed by that man this year.
Yep.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Unfortunately, due to popular demand. Unfortunately,
there's no popular demand. It's fantasy time.
Dr. Auto Art has been wonderful
fantasy time.
to sponsor the fantasy league, but I think everyone's sick of hearing how well you're going in fantasy.
If by everyone you refer to yourself,
and that is everybody in my world. You know that.
I know that. Care less. Could not care less. Do you know how long I just let the fantasy calculations sit there post race just to see how it's going? Anyway, I'll tell you what. I reckon one of the teams ahead of me. I can't remember who did it, but I think someone's listening to our podcast. One of the top 5 is definitely listening to one of our podcasts, because what they did is they actually took Perez out and they put George in. But then when I went back and had a look in there post race, just before quali, George came out. So I wonder if there's someone's listening and just doing a little bit of a sneaky. I'm going to throw someone in the hope that I might look at that and copy it and then leave it. But
clearly you are watching it very carefully.
Very carefully, sticking to my guns. Anyway, second place. In second, 14 points behind Jolien. WW Jolien PD. Another call out for the weekend. Whoever you are, inboxes.
We had somebody.
Who told? Who
was it? No. It was somebody from a couple of positions down.
Anyway, so Jolien, WW Jolien PD. If that is your team, my goodness me, please DM us. Please get in touch, because I just love to chat fantasy with you.
And hold your nerve.
Whoever you are, because it's a whole
we cannot deal
another
with
head-to-head, just you versus me. Anyway, 265 for them and 265 for me across the race weekend. Max was 70 on the double. Checo 28.
Did you notice how many people were on the higher score this week?
Yes, a lot of people.
Does that mean everybody's got the same teams?
Most will have, if you look up and down, like I have religiously, there is almost a set team that you can have that will deliver high-end scores, which is kind of what we've got. So you're looking at Zhou. Hulk was looking good for those who had him on Saturday, but then on Sunday, I think Hulk came home with -1 in the end. So, yeah, lost too many positions, but he was looking quite good, because I had Zhou Saturday with nothing, and I had Stroll with nothing either. So, anyway, but Max 70, Checo 28, Fernando 27, Lance 9, and Zhou 4, and then the Redbull 86, and then the Aston 41. So people like Perez being out of position is actually good. I would have been really interested to see what George's points would have been had he not have DNF'd, because he qualified high, dropped to the back of the field, and then was passing people on track, which is just bulk points.
But
so
you would have lost the...
Well, that's what I wonder.
I
don't know if he would have lost the points to the positions and got them back, or does it just go back and just... Because it's just on-track passes. So anyway, 265 for me. Second place, firing on all cylinders. Imagine if I win. Imagine.
Might be the end of the podcast. That might be it for us.
So good. You are in 19th position. You've dropped down. You're on 2,275.
Have I dropped down?
Yes, you have. You had
I thought I'd stay.
No,
okay.
You're all right. Down 19th. You had 259 points. So not a poor weekend by Alonso.
No, I know. I was only 6 off you.
You were only 6 off me, but it's just, unfortunately, you're 19th and I'm second.
I'm hearing
Didn't get it all in order. Didn't get your house in order early enough.
How do you put the... Sorry, keep going.
Max on 70, Checo 28, Alonso 27. You had Gasly for 8. And Hulkenberg spoiled your party with a -1, which is not good. And
I was thinking, like, second position, here we go.
You were on it, and that's what I'm saying. Saturday, if you were a Hulk buyer, you were on it. And Jay, 2,262, he's moved up. He's in 22nd position. And, yeah, same team as you. So you guys are sharing the chocolates there, 259 points. So then if we go to our top 5, thanks to Chris... As always, check out his amazing work. If you see his helmets, a lot of new helmets. Get on his Instagram. We talk about all these different socials and all the great work that Chris does.
Dr. Auto Art.
Yeah, over at Dr. Auto Art. But just, I would say and suggest his Instagram, where you can have a look at his stories, and some of the helmets that are coming through are looking good. So it looks like Chris is starting to branch out into different areas. But thanks, Chris, again for being our incredible sponsor of our championship this year. So, in first place, WW Jolly and PD, 2,433. Gee, it's tight. It's tight. If you have a wet weekend and you lose 3 drivers, you're in trouble. Myself, 2,419, only 14 points back. Redbull Catering Fund in third, 2,408. Then you've gone in fourth place, Stop Inventing, 2,405. And then in 5th place, Party in the Back, making their move up, 2,401. So 7 points from a prize from Chris, or just a bit of a pat on the back and well done from your neighbours.
It's harsh, isn't it?
It's harsh. It's harsh.
That's the land of Formula 1, though, isn't it?
Yep.
Formula 1 fantasy is a harsh land.
Yep. DNFs are going to kill you this year, so... Anyway, I need to go back and have a listen, because I was listening to F1 Nation podcast for the very first time on my dog walk, evening dog walk, and TC does a fantasy segment at the end of that, which I didn't know, and they must have like a community team going, which is something I've always wanted to do, but not really quite sure how we'd get that. Anyway, he was talking about his community team and who they had taken out and who they were bringing in and the changes they were making coming up to Canada. So I would be really interested to see if I can find, like, you know, that community team. And just see how they're going. So anyway, have a listen to that. I thought it was really, really good.
Big race weekend coming up.
Massive. Austria.
Sprint
weekend. That's your weekend to use your double chips.
Triple chips.
Triple chips.
Gone triple chips.
Good.
On to Max.
Good. Great call.
This is a move I keep forgetting every year.
Yep. Great call.
I'm excited about
I've already used mine, so yep.
Do you reckon we'll get them again halfway through the season this year?
Absolutely not. I think once you're done, that's it.
You reckon it's once in?
Yep. Once you're in, you're done. That's it. So anyway, I think the big one is what have I got left in terms of chips? Just having a look here. I'm tempted to do something with Mercedes, but I'm not quite sure when and how I'm going to do that. Autopilot is probably the one you want to look at, because
what's that?
Autopilot will automatically override your double points. So you don't have to choose your double, it'll just automatically go to the highest scorer.
I'm confident with my choice.
Anyway, I think you're absolutely fine with that one there too. I think, what's the other one? Limitless or something like that? A wild card? Limitless. Limitless is where it gives you have unlimited budget and you can just pick the top 5 and then the 2. So
what happens at the end of that round? You just go back to your team.
You go back to your team in the next round straight afterwards. So you could have both Red Bulls.
That might be a good one.
You could have both Mercs, and you could have Fernando, and then you can have Red Bull, and you can have whoever you want. But geez, you'd need to really know that, wouldn't you? After P3, you would have to be absolutely steadfast confident that this is going to be the top 5 finishes. But then again, sprint weekend might be the weekend to do it because you're going to get extra right across the board. So anyway, to be seen. Thanks, Chris, Dr. Order. Check out all these great work.
Fantastic. News. Just non-F1 news really, really quickly. It's raining in England, is it?
It's raining in England. Ferrari winning Le Mans. I just want to mention that because we haven't had an opportunity to mention that. First time in 50 years. Won the centenary of Le Mans. F1 program is obviously not going well for them, but I tell you what, that hypercar is just incredible. So I just thought that was, I just thought it was definitely worth mentioning.
Nice to see some different winners too.
Really good to see, yep.
I think it's good for the sport.
Yep.
How many hours did you sink into it?
I reckon I sank about 6 to 8 maybe, just progressively on and off throughout the weekend. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
In
yourself?
In terms of 15 minutes?
Yeah.
You got me excited, and as I was trying to find how to watch it, then you told me that the person that was really close crashed out only not long ago.
I did.
I was like,
it was pretty much over from there. Anyway.
Yeah. Yep.
So anyway, just wanted to mention that. Hey, I just want to talk Aston Martin upgrades for a second because they're looking good, and they are, I guess, the second best team at the moment going forward, but a lot of the upgrades that they've put together, if you jump onto the F1 page, there's a really, really great side-by-side photo of Spain last week to Canada this week, and you can see there's been a lot of work put into the side pods, trimming down to the side pods, and then if you have a look also at the rear of the car too, you can see the appearance of a shark fin, and across the weekend you might have noticed a split right down the back, so right across the rear wing there was a really heavy split that went straight through the bodywork too. So a couple more aerodynamic features on that car, which I think is going to bode really, really well for them too. And a little bit of a change to the structure of the roll hoop too, just at the top. If you have a close front-on look, you'll see that the front of the roll hoop has sort of changed in its dimensions and the way that goes about. So I was really impressed with what they've done there too. I think that's good. And Williams as well. Upgrades to Williams going really, really good too. Really, really well. So I think they're starting to trim their side pods down as well.
In less good news for Aston Martin, so the way that the testing is allocated throughout the season is it actually rolls through. So second half of the season, depending on where you're sitting on the table, there starts to be some implications as for that throughout the season. And so they're actually having some testing time taken off them because of their success. They're second in the championship at the moment. And so, so that it's an interesting, not something would most fans and probably most people would have necessarily thought about the fact that, mid-season we're going to start to see some of these contenders knocked back a bit because they started with a whole lot more, being a long way back last year. This year, so from the midpoint of this year, then they're going to start to see some effects into that. Probably mainly going to affect them for next year. What are your thoughts on the way that works, where they make some adjustments throughout the year?
Yeah, I don't know.
Look, let me ask you a better question.
Yeah.
Do you think that the system we've got is a good system where last year's team gets less development than everybody else? And there's a tiered system where, to the point where the last team actually gets somehow 110%.
I think it's great.
Do you think it's severe? So, do you think it's severe enough?
Yeah, I think it's okay.
Do you? This year we're going to see Red Bull cop even more because of the penalty they've got,
which is fine.
I tend to agree with you. My question is, not sure that. You really don't want to discriminate against successful teams. But for Formula One's got a bit of a problem at the moment. It's a Max problem. It's not necessarily a Red Bull problem. But it's mostly a Red Bull problem. But mainly it's a Max problem. Max is too good for everybody. In the past, we've seen Lewis be too good for everybody. In the past, we've seen Seb be too good for everybody. For long periods of time. I wonder whether they can just ramp it up a little bit and actually really crack down on these teams that are a long way out in front. I wonder whether the penalties... No, I don't want to call them penalties. The restrictions could be a little stronger for the teams that are absolutely in front.
I guess you just don't want to be too strong with that too early because
I like that comment because I think it's something that we can move into over time, but I want it to be considered really soon.
Because I would hate to see let's say 2024 Fernando wins a title, and then suddenly you've won your title, and now you're just back to the bottom of the midfield.
That's right, exactly.
It's probably that. I think that's unfair.
I'm with you. So I want to see a few seasons of the way the system's working. and I want to see some adjustments
Yep.
with that. So I think at the moment, for a Red Bull, they're so far in front. So maybe even things like race wins needs to come into account.
Yep.
Are they a long way in front? But maybe that's not because they're absolutely dominant. Maybe that's because they're really consistent throughout a season. This year isn't the case. They're fast and consistent. But maybe it's because lots of other teams are faster, but they've had some major issues. So maybe a range of things need to come into calculations.
Maybe.
Not necessarily where you are on the points table. And I don't know if I love the mid-season change. I sort of feel like, well, you've started the season well. We shouldn't take the season off you. It's the next season you're going to have to really work for.
Yeah.
I'd be a bit worried that, I mean, remember the Brawn days where everyone had to play catch-up?
Yes.
I don't want to see teams have to be worried that everyone's going to be playing catch-up for the second half of the season because you nailed it at the start.
Yeah, that's fair.
So, yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of this system where they make the changes midway through the season. I mean, it's great for this year because we're continuing to penalise the teams that are going really fast, but I sort of feel like, well, you've nailed the season, you deserve the win.
Yeah, look, I feel like in 3 years' time we'll be sitting here and then it'll be an incredibly close field and the people who make the difference is the driver
Absolutely.
and the driver only.
And it could be a little bit like an accordion sort of system where we're penalising high at the start and it comes in
Bring it back.
towards the end.
Yeah, I don't mind that.
And so if you're restricting really strongly at the start of these major changes in the regulations, it means that the teams that nailed it are going to get dragged back in, but then we reduce that and just let teams go. Once we found a natural order, let teams go for it in a more even playing field.
Yep.
I don't mind it. It's an interesting little situation that we've got. I think it's a good situation we've got, but I think some more tweaks could be required.
Yep, fair.
Any other news?
A little bit of news just on sort of people movement across the teams. I just want to talk really quickly.
Have you ever known so many people to be moving between teams at the moment?
I haven't. So, Rob Marshall...
Before you announce, what do you reckon the reason for that is?
I think it's probably the cost cap.
Absolutely. It's amazing point that I don't know was necessarily considered, that you've got a certain limited amount of money, and if you can pull more of that money towards yourself, you're more willing to move.
Yep.
Whereas teams are always willing to just keep on throwing
Yes,
big money at
and
people and pay them what they need to keep them.
And a lot of the technical director role too, which is what I just want to lead to really shortly, where you can take that role now, and if you're clever with your people management and your department management, you can spread that across 3 or 4 areas.
Yep.
Because you don't have to throw bulk cash at a single individual to make the difference.
Yep.
And it's probably teams also are looking for the next Adrian Newey, which, to be quite honest, probably doesn't really exist because he's 1 in a million.
Absolutely.
So you now are probably starting to think, I'm not going to find that diamond in the rough who's just going to come in and they're going to build me this car and they're going to be the next greatest thing in terms of technical, nous.
Yeah, it's an interesting equaliser.
You need to find other people. Yeah, I
hadn't thought about this being such a big thing with this cost cap, that the talent is actually beginning to spread across all the teams, because the teams have a certain amount of money to pay.
Yep.
So they can pay that wage to those people.
Yep.
If Red Bull or Ferrari or Mercedes want to keep the absolute top end talent, well, they've got to pay for that talent, and they've got to make their books work it that way.
Yep.
So it's interesting. Yeah, sorry, go on with who.
So Rob Marshall has gone off to Red Bull. From Red Bull to McLaren. Now I was lucky enough to meet Rod Marshall at the Australian Grand Prix. I'm going to put the photo up literally while we're talking right now, so people can have a look at that.
Wonderful. We got a great deal of joy out of this photo.
Yeah, wonderful photo.
Tell the story about
the story was that Rob came down off the podium with all the trophies and all his gear, drenched in champagne as well. And I said to him, can I take a photo? And he's like, yeah, no worries. And then he went to jump in with me taking a photo, holding trophies and stuff.
To give you the trophy to hold.
And I was like, no, I don't want a photo with you. I want a photo of you, because just in that moment, it was a Formula One person just loving what they were doing, and it was just
looked like a happy
that's
guy.
what I loved about it, that it wasn't your big name. I mean, it kind of is a big name for those people that are following the technical directors and stuff like that, but it was just wonderful to see. I got a really good photo. I'm going to find it literally while we're talking and pop it up for people listening. Jump on our Facebook page and have a look. So he's gone across to McLaren, who sound like they've thrown the kitchen sink at him to get there, but also, and it's probably my question to be has there been something afoot at McLaren maybe that's been part of the Dan sort of years there? Because McLaren have let go of James Key. Now, James Key has made his way across to Sauber, which he'll be eyeing his work with Audi very, very soon. But we know that Andreas Seidel worked really closely with James Key at McLaren.
Good combination.
And they were a really great combination. However, James Key has come straight across to follow Seidel, straight across to Sauber, and will now form part of the Audi, head of operations in the coming years. So I guess my question is, now that we're starting to see a group of McLaren people depart, but what they're not doing is they're not going off in individual areas, it's starting to look like a little bit of a split down the middle where you are either staying on board with what's happening at McLaren and you believe that the direction that they've taken is the right steps, or you kind of are a little bit a part of the Seidel camp where he's gone and now those people that he was working with are stepping away, but with him. So just makes me wonder is while Dan was there, and Dan seems to have been now the collateral damage in all of this, not Lando, because obviously you've got your group at McLaren that have stayed the course and believe what they're doing is right, and then Lando has stayed, but then Dan was very much part of the Seidel camp because Andreas Seidel was always backing Dan and always supporting what he was saying. So I don't know, I feel like over the course of the year, if we start seeing a few more people move away from McLaren, if they end up in the Audi Sauber camp,
McLaren are a fascinating watch, aren't they?
I think so at the moment, I really do. And it comes off the back of the hope that they were fourth and about to step into being the third best team on the grid a couple of years ago.
So just the history that they've got, and then where they've been, the little resurgence that they took,
huge
and then they've stepped back down again, and they've had this situation where they've cooked one of the highest regarded drivers on the grid to the point where he's left driving at the moment.
Yeah.
And then they've seen all these major names stepping away. Yeah. But on the other hand, it looks from all intents and purposes that the McLaren brand is working quite well.
Yes,
Zach Brown,
as a business.
He seems like a really fantastic leader as a businessman.
Yep.
They're a fascinating watch, and you just really wonder where they're going to get to, and how can a company of that stature continue to just meander around where they're at. I mean, they should be at the top. They should be at the top. Cost caps have allowed for any team to get to the top.
Yeah, I think so too.
And so they're a fascinating watch. So no, I'm with you. It's a good point. Do you reckon? Can you see Dan joining them?
Well, maybe this is something I'm starting to think about, because if the fracture is there and it sort of alludes to maybe there's something a little bit untowards.
They weren't willing to get on board with where Dan was at.
Yep, maybe if let's say by chance he does end up there, you could probably start to say, maybe there was.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised. I think it was probably early in the season I was suggesting that's where we could go to, and then I've sort of gone cold on it. But in terms of for a driving move for Dan, what would you think?
Not too bad. Audi is just a phenomenal motorsport entity, isn't it?
They seem like they're an Aston Martin, what Aston Martin's done, but they're going to do it a little slower. Yep. Aston Martin tried to go absolute charge ahead. Yep. It wasn't something that was quite possible then. They've realised it's going to take some time. It's like Audi know it's going to take time, and we're going to do it like that. It'll be interesting to see how the two approaches get there, because, I mean, they're obviously done some beautiful things, Aston Martin, this year, and started to see the dividends pay off. They wanted it to happen slightly sooner, but now it's actually starting to happen. So, yeah, it's interesting. And that's about it, I think, for all the news at the moment. Next race is off to Austria, as we mentioned. It's a sprint race weekend. I do enjoy an Austrian Grand Prix. We generally get some action. I'm hoping, I mean, Ferrari's been typically really strong there. We've seen some really great results from Ferrari, so I'm hoping that this track may suit them a little bit more. We might get 4 contenders. I can't see anyone matching Max, but we might get 4 contenders for that second spot.
Nürburgring show runs really, really quickly.
It was nearly going to be my date of the day, this.
Really?
Because this should be at a Formula 1 race weekend.
Yes, well, that's actually what I thought it was, because it was promoted as the Redbull ring, so it's not. Sorry for those people that put out. Got that totally wrong, but because when it was promoted by the Red Bull ring, that Seb was going to be doing a show run in the RB8, the RB7, which is spot on. He is, but he's not doing it at the
race weekend. No, it's at Enduro.
Yeah, it's at the Nordschleife in Nürburgring.
Yeah.
So he's going to be there doing that. Dan's going to be running in the RB8, and I think there is going to be just a plethora of other vehicles. I think one of the McLarens is going to be there.
These ones are on the biofuel, I think.
Yeah, they're all on the e-fuel. So I don't know if the Braun's going to be there as well, but there's going to be a series of modern cars.
Yep.
Running the Nordschleife, which that in itself is so awesome. Like, I think it's great, but yeah, like, disappointed it's not going to be at the Red Bull Ring.
It needs to be something that Formula One look at. There should be some sort of classic car at every bloody race, I reckon.
Yeah.
I reckon it would be magnificent to see a classic car, whether it's just pretty, whether it's amazing for its noise, whether it's done some amazing things.
Yep.
We should be trying to bring them into every race weekend.
Yep.
And I love this idea of the biofuel situation, but I'm not sure you can make that happen. I don't know what the cost is to make these conversions. It seems to be something Seb's really keen on, which I love.
Yep.
But I'd love to see that happening more at small race weekends.
Yep. Max was going to be doing the Nordschleife run with Dan and with Seb, but Helmut Marko said, no, you're not allowed to do that.
Piss off, Helmut.
Which I think sucks.
Piss off, Helmut.
I think that sucks, yeah.
Interesting to hear a few more interviews with mainstream media, not just the...
I think so too. So,
media.
he said it's a bit of a risky drive, and he knows Max will,
not be able to hold back.
Absolutely put his foot in it, which would be great. So, anyway, and last note, 100 wins for Red Bull.
And awesome. Max matching Senna.
Awesome, yep, 41% Red Bull win
for Max.
Ratio for Max.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Seb's was 39% or something like that.
Yep, and I think
surprises me because 4 world championships there.
Longer season, shorter season versus longer season.
Okay,
that's all. That's the only difference.
Okay, yep. And then a few for Perez, a few for Ricciardo.
Yeah, 9 for Dan,
couple for Webber,
9 for Mark, 8 for Mark.
Is there anyone we're missing? Don't think Kvyat ever got one, did he?
I don't think so.
No,
I'm going to say no. I'm just going to confidently say no. I think that's it.
Yeah, that was not a confident no.
I'm going to be wrong.
That was I'm not sure, no. But anyway, keep your eyes peeled for... so that's happening in 2 weeks. We don't have a back-to-back. For some reason I thought we had a race coming up, unfortunately.
10 days.
But yeah, so we've got a week off and then into that one, but I do love a sprint race weekend. Would Canada have made a good sprint race track?
No.
I think it would have been okay. I'm just not sure we needed it there. That's all. But yeah, so no, it'll be great to be back watching Formula One there and with sprint race weekends. But until then, we'll have a fantasy coming out a little bit later on.
Yep,
this week.
Go Aussies.
Go away, rain. Goodbye now.